Hi everyone, welcome to our Building a Business Case for Loyalty Programs masterclass. My name is Julia Gaj and I'm a product marketing manager at Voucherify, an API-first promotion and loyalty engine. And today I'm joined by Lukasz Sloniewski, who is the CEO at Omnivy. Omnivy is an agency specializing in fast-tracking loyalty integrations, and Lukasz himself has over 16 years of experience of working with world-leading brands like Adidas or Costa Coffee, helping them both build and analyze their loyalty programs. And we meet here today to, no surprise, chat about building a business case for your loyalty program. So, in other words, how to estimate the potential impact that your program can have for your brand and how to get the green light for your loyalty project. So, very happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm super excited to be here.
Lovely. Okay, so Lukasz, I hate to start with this one, but given the intense saturation of the loyalty market where every brand seems to have a loyalty program these days, would you say that it's still worth it? Is loyalty still worth building? Or no, and we can maybe just go home.
Just go home.
So what do you think?
Yeah, definitely we shouldn't go home here because the loyalty, the market is saturated. It's like everyone is having a loyalty, but still the value of that is growing. And it's because of a couple of things. So to be honest, we shouldn't even discuss if it makes sense to invest in loyalty, but how to do it in a smart way and how to show and use the real power of that. Because loyalty today should be considered as something much bigger than just rewarding clients. And that's not the number one priority for that. We should be considering loyalty program as a way to achieve a super clean set of data around our customers. So really being able to understand them. Why? Because as you've probably noticed, we have so many categories of marketing tools right now, each one of them fighting for being the one that's going to, build the recommendations, predict the next best step, predict the next best offer. They all need data as a fuel. And they all are adding constantly some new features, especially on the AI capabilities. But AI needs data. So actually, the loyalty allows us to understand how the clients are behaving in all of the channels. And that's extremely important, especially in the omni-channel environment, where you are not only in the digital space, where it's quite easy to track the clients. But if you are having some retail spaces, you need to add something on top of that. So definitely fight for clean data is why we are using the loyalty. And then we also have all the business impact. And we see, because that's something that people are questioning. Does it really bring that value? But we can see on those earning calls of big brands that it actually does. If we look, so let's take the example of Ultra Beauty. They've said that their loyalty program members, they're spending even 4 times more than non-members. And they are growing super fast, and they are attributing 25% of their growth directly to that loyalty program, which is huge. Yeah. And the same with Chipotle. They are growing faster than the market because they grew 15% while the whole market grew 8%. And they are also clearly stating that a big portion of that growth is because of that loyalty program as well.
All right, okay. Thank you for that. But playing a little bit of a devil's advocate, let's say here, because you mentioned examples of huge brands, right? And loyalty space is full of, very amazing, success stories that we increased CLV by, 40%. We increased average order values by 80 or whatever that is. But when it comes to just, imagine that I'm a loyalty manager of a mid-sized brand, let's say. So how would I go about estimating the value, the potential value that loyalty program can bring to my specific brand? How would I go about it? And I'm asking that because you promised to bring something today and prepare some smart ways to calculate it for, your individual use case. So what's that?
Yeah, sure. So as promised, I'm bringing stuff here. So basically, to understand the real impact, especially if you don't have like a lot of experience in building that business case and understanding and trying to calculate like what's going to be the business result of the loyalty, we need to break everything down into small pieces, because obviously the ultimate goal is that we're building a higher customer lifetime value. So they are spending more money with us, they are buying more frequently, they stay longer. But how to do that and what actually impacts all those details, I have prepared an Excel sheet for you. So that's going to be...
Everybody loves an Excel.
Yeah, everyone, like I know, everyone is about like, let's do some super analytics tool, but everyone ends up using Excel. That's the best analytics tool that you can have. So I have prepared a worksheet for you guys that you could use as a tool. And I'm going to take you through that because...
Lovely.
It's probably, there are a number of tools and a number of Excels you can find out there that helps you to calculate the ROI, but they are super simplified and probably majority of people just don't know what to put in those fields. I'm going to take you through our Excel and just tell you exactly how to predict and how to calculate all that data.
Okay, all right. So let's take a look at the worksheet that we have here. So I can see that we have some, I'd say 3 key categories, like starting points, assumptions, and growth projections. So why don't we just go, one by one? So starting with the starting point, right? So I can see that I have some values here, and they are already populated with some data. So let's say that I'm starting with a blank sheet here, actually. So how do I go about it? Where do I find this data, etc.?
Yeah.
Where would I start?
So that starting point is actually something that you can get out of your financial books today. So it's nothing like super tricky or something that you would have to have specific knowledge about. Because if we take a look at that, what we need here is the number of customers that you have, the average number of transactions per customer. So basically, if you have your transactional data and you know how many clients you have, you just divide that number. Then going through some more math, we can estimate like what's the average transaction value. And if you know that, what's the average margin or profit that you have from a single transaction. If you don't have that super well calculated, probably someone in your financial team is going to tell you like what to assume here. And then I'm sure that you all have targets for growth. So everyone has some type of objectives for how much we want to grow. So this is something that you need to put here, like how much you're expecting to grow your customer base. So that's line number 8. How do you predict the growth of average transaction value and the average transaction amount per customer? And then if you're having any type of churn rate that you have calculated already, that's something you can put here as well. So we're starting with that to try to have the base level. So something, what would happen if you didn't introduce the loyalty program?
All right. Okay. So that sounds, simple enough. As you mentioned, if someone is unsure of some of these numbers, because maybe if you work only in marketing, you don't really have access, right, to all of this data, but you may as well, just contact, other departments, since loyalty is usually a cross-departmental, endeavor, let's say. Okay. All right. So we have that, but then we arrive at, I think, a little bit of a pickle, because we have assumptions, right? And assumptions are always a little bit tricky, because people can feel like, okay, so do I just assume, meaning do I just kind of make something up? Or do I should probably base it off something. So would you say that when it comes to assumptions for my loyalty program, would it be some kind of industry benchmarks? Would I look at my competition? Would I look at anything else? How would you, go about it?
Yeah, so definitely, you should be, if you're new to that, you should be looking at your industry and similar programs. That's going to help you to understand what are the expected levels, even if not, if no one is actually sharing details around, okay, how they grew and, like how those transactions grew. But even if you have like some basic indicators around how many people signed up for the program, that's usually something that people are sharing because they're hyping about it.
Yeah.
that's a good starting point. So analyze your competition, analyze other good examples of loyalty programs in your space. But what I actually prepared here are some benchmarks collected from the market, the practice that we are doing for those 15 years. So this is our experience, but also well-known examples of loyalty programs. And we have 3 elements that you should be able to predict with those benchmarks. So basically we have a total number of members in the first year of loyalty program. This is something that, that's going to very much depend on how much you promote it, what's your current member base, what industry you're in, and so on and so on. But this is where you probably should look at the competition. But the very good idea, if you have no reference, no similar cases, you could take something from 10 to 30% and be safe that probably you're going to land somewhere around there. For 2 next lines, so we have the average number of transactions per member and average value of transaction per member. So here we want to estimate how much more are your best clients spending and how more often they are buying. Because with the loyalty program, what we are going to be trying to ultimately achieve is to take more people and make them act like your best clients. So you already have a portion of clients that are generating majority of your business. That's the usual way. So that's something we're going to be targeting. So if you already have any type of data and you're tracking any type of behaviors of your clients, you can just take the fraction of your best clients and assume that this is your best loyalty clients should be behaving this way. And so what could be the difference between standard clients and loyal clients? I have prepared some benchmarks. So actually, this Excel is super colorful and it gives you the paths to go through. So for each line and for each actually field, if it has some color and you need to put some value, it just takes you with the path to some type of benchmark. So if we're looking at the first one, line 15, average number of transactions per member, usually what we see is that those loyalty clients are buying 5 to 15% more frequent. So they are making more transactions. And the next line is about how much more do they spend in a single transaction. And this varies a lot between industries. That's why I have prepared those benchmarks per industry. So you can easily take something from those values and then, that's up to your optimism and expectations. It's all about your brand value as well, like how strong it is on the market. But, it's ultimately the testing tool. So it also should show you, if not how the loyalty program is going to work, it should tell you how it would have to work to, be able to finance its existence. So it's kind of like you can play here with different numbers, see different scenarios and, try to estimate like what do we need to achieve to be on the green side of the financial calculations.
Okay, lovely. So to sum up, as you mentioned, these assumptions would mostly come from, benchmarks, right? Just looking around, plus looking at your VIPs, right? That you already kind of have, because this is ultimately the goal, right? To turn normal, average Joe, let's say, into a VIP. Okay, all right. But since, I have you here for a little while, I would love to, use this opportunity to also dig deeper into maybe more actionable tips on how to arrive, let's say, at these assumptions that we have. So let's say that I put forward like very ambitious goal for my AOVs and for my frequency, right? So starting from, for example, AOVs, do you have any recommendations or tips on how to, for example, build the loyalty program, how to, arrive at this, dream destination, let's say?
Sure. So this is extremely important to understand. How do you actually deliver that growth? Because it's not just a matter of putting any numbers there. You need to defend them in front of your C-level board. So how the loyalty is going to help you with that. So first of all, to achieve the AOVs like we've been able to achieve at retailers or QSRs that were usually even up to 40% growth, we're focusing on three main elements. So first one is around understanding the client journeys much better, their shopping patterns and behaviors. And the loyalty program is a great way to do that because it actually makes those people identify themselves in every channel with every interaction because they are expecting to receive benefits. Without that, if they don't show up, if they don't present themselves as themselves, they're not going to be able to benefit of everything that they can. So that's the starting point. But that actually brings us to the place where we understand them way better so we can personalize the offering and be more relevant. So improving that relevancy of offering is a main stone of that. And, everyone recently is focusing mainly on that. That loyalty program allowed them to be more precise. Even if we're looking at Target, they have relaunched their loyalty program last year. They said that they were able to collect extra million of loyalty program members, but also due to those better personalization of the promotions, they were able to achieve 3 times higher conversion rates of those offers for loyalty program members comparing to standard offers that they have, like the generic offers that they are issuing. So that personalization based on the data from loyalty is a number one element. Then we have like way better bundling, upselling, cross-selling opportunities because again, we know better, we can better place those offers in the journey of the customer and so on. And then let's also not forget about the basics of the loyalty program, which are the benefits. Yeah. And this is still playing a strong motivation for those clients to choose one brand comparing to another. So loyalty program again gives us like way more opportunities to play around this rewarding, because with discounts it's very heavy, it's very difficult to play with that because you need to offer something significant to make it valid, make it change the decision. With loyalty program we can play with that kind of like diluted value of what we're giving, because 5 points sounds so great while it's very difficult to say how much is it worth. So that capability to play around with all those mechanics of multiplayers, tiers that you can collect, and statuses that you can receive with some special benefits attached to it, that gives us a lot of opportunities to actually improve those single value of transaction.
Lovely. Right. Okay. So as you mentioned, the AOVs would be mostly impacted by, just smarter promotions that you can run. That would be the first thing. And another very important thing would be the ability to, to introduce better recommendations, better cross-selling, upselling as well, right? Actually, I have a very nice customer story that we had in Voucherify. So we have a client, it's one of the biggest like beverage wholesaler in Benelux countries, and they introduced a loyalty program, and the loyalty program was built around that, so around boosting AOVs. This was their main KPI that they wanted to kind of play around with, and they I think they actually managed to boost it by around 70%, which is like very impressive. And they did it in a very like smart but also very simple way. So they introduced a progress visualization like bar at the checkout process. And this way, the more customers, purchased, the bigger the order got, the better, more loyalty points they would get. And these loyalty points would have some kind of monetary value, which was, of course, it can be seen as costly for the brand in the long run, but if you set the conversion right, it doesn't have to be, right? But the perceived value of the point is much higher, as you mentioned, right? So these loyalty benefits, they don't have to be that costly, right? As just, simple discounts are, but they are perceived as much more VIP-like, let's say, yeah? And that's why it works. So this would be one, let's say, example from the trenches, yeah, that this actually works. And even, not the biggest brands, but, mid-sized, also B2B brands, they all can kind of take advantage of that. All right, so we have the AOVs here, but we also have the frequency, right? And from what we usually see from, our point of view would be, for example, some kind of like loyalty bonus events, right? So like shop now and get, double points. And there are also very popular like stamp or punch card like programs, right? When, the more you visit, the more you buy, then at the end of this journey, there is some kind of free product or other kind of benefit. But do you have any tips, outside of what I mentioned, for increasing frequency as well, besides AOVs?
Yeah, so currently we have a selection of mechanics that we could use to actually motivate people to drop by more frequently. And as you mentioned, like building that FOMO is one of those. So, okay, you have that special deal, but it's a very short time period for you to use that. That's more and more frequently used, especially in those environments that are very digital, gamified, using a lot of those engagement mechanics. But I would say that the most important element today are the personalized challenges. So basically, we have enough processing and processing power capacity to go down to a level of very small groups of clients or even individual clients and try to build challenges, especially for them, that would motivate them to do one step more than last time. And this is something that we've been doing, for example, for one of the leading fuel retailers globally, that a very important campaign there was to actually segment clients depending on how they behave, how many times they fuel, and how much they fuel. And obviously, you're not going to fuel more than you need to.
Yeah.
You're only going to kind of like consume a certain amount of fuel. But what you're fighting for is not that, like they are going to buy more fuel, but they are going to buy more fuel with you. So it's all about the market share that you're trying to win from your competition. So, it's like one of the examples of those campaigns was that we've actually built different segments. One of those segments were people who, on average bought, were fueling once per 3 weeks with 30 plus liters. And we've been pushing them to actually, do the sequence and come up to the fourth transaction. So we've been saying, okay, after the first fueling, we've been saying we double your points with the next one if you fuel at least 30 liters within the next 7 days. And then triple points, quadruple points. And imagine that, like how much you expect that kind of campaign, like what could be the conversion rate of that?
Just being, a little modest, I would say maybe 30 or...
Yeah, so it's way
I'm way off?
more. It's way more.
Okay.
So actually, the fun fact, or it's not that surprising, that conversion rate was growing with every growth of value. So that first level was around 50%. So half of the people converted, they used that coupon to buy that when buying the fuel. With someone that get to that stage, so already had like this triple points coupon, the redemption of that was already 75%. Ooh. And if you got your fourth time points coupon, it was 85%.
Okay,
so that's something
insane.
You don't want to lose. So basically, and it's still, those are points. We all know that those points, especially in fuel retail, are not having that great value. But it's still 4 times more, so it's not something you want to lose.
Value,
high perceived
just
value.
As you mentioned, it doesn't have to be expensive for the business.
Exactly. So we have those and the more relevant we are with those challenges, the better they are going to be working. So we have that FOMO, we have that personalized challenges. And then we also have a lot of gamification that we could use here. So keeping those clients constantly engaged with the program, that's going to help us to engage them more. So using the simple techniques like progress bars, as you said, stamp cards, but being able to constantly show it to them, like where are they, how close they are, how they can move forward through that path. That's a very powerful mechanism that costs you nothing, basically. That's the
Just
biggest
the UX
power
designer,
of that.
yeah.
Exactly.
That you need to hire
but
to
you
that
just
for
do
you.
it once and it scale perfectly. So that visualization, that communication, constant communication with those people, that's the key to that.
Yeah, right. Because, I guess we can all agree that we don't, in everyday life, let's say, we don't consciously just track, let's see what's up with this program and with this,
that's
especially
what I
that,
check every
people,
morning.
unless you are a loyalty professional, then maybe you're a little bit insane with that. And, you just join programs to see how they work.
Yeah.
But in general, if you don't communicate the value and you don't visualize the progress, people will just, drop you in a way, right? Because you're not really top of mind, let's say.
Exactly.
All right, lovely. So coming back to the worksheet that we have here, I believe we went over a little bit over these, growth projections for average transaction and average number of transactions, right? But I also can see here that we have this extra customer base growth due to optimized offers, which I think is an interesting thing to have in a loyalty ROI worksheet, and I've seen quite a few of them, and I've never seen that before, that that optimized offers can actually lead not even to like member growth, but customer base growth. So these people don't even have to join the program, but they are still impacted by you having the program. So if you can just talk a little bit about this point.
Sure. So basically, we have a lot of proofs from multiple researchers that shows that basically having that loyalty offering is important for people when they are making a selection of retailer, especially or retailer or any other type of brand, especially if you have a big selection or rotation of those clients and easiness to switch. So when you're looking for a new company that you want to do a business with, you're evaluating a lot of elements, and that loyalty offering could be a very important factor. Plus, let's keep remembering that good loyalty programs also very often include those referral tactics, member gets member mechanics. So that's not necessarily bringing you to the loyalty program, but helps to promote certain products, offering, people trust recommendations. That's the number one element that kind of impact your purchasing decision, and especially trying out new products, new brands. So that's the very important element. And if we're looking at what can we expect, looking at the benchmarks of the programs that we've been working with, we've seen that kind of like extra growth attributed to the loyalty program from 5 to even 50% of new clients.
All right, so that's 50%. That's an insane number to arrive at. But I feel like we should maybe underline here the importance of the loyalty technology that you're going to go with, right? Because of course you can choose just a loyalty system. Let's say just a loyalty system. I mean like points, tiers, stuff like that, but no let's say built-in promotion and personalization capabilities. This may in the future block you, right, in a way from using the loyalty data that you collected and applying it into your promotion strategy, right? And that's why it's also so important to look at the technology vendor, let's say, that you're going to be working with. And right, you mentioned this member get member kind of deals. We've seen huge uplift in the number of these among our clients and generally among the industry. So I feel like combining referrals with loyalty is also a very, very good bet, especially as you mentioned that people are far more likely to recommend a brand that already has, a very solid loyalty offering because it just seems more, trustworthy, right? And we don't want to refer, our friends and family to some scammy, weird
Sure.
little things, right? All right, so we talked a lot about growth, both in terms of customers and members, but I can also see the churn field here. So what about loyalty programs makes customers actually less likely to leave your brand? What would you say here?
Yeah, it's in general a loyalty program uh, builds some type of stickiness. Like people are feeling a part of something bigger. That like if they feel the value, they are more likely to stay. And that's why it's so important in the loyalty programs to actually make sure that people are receiving their benefits. And that should be your number one priority.
Yeah.
I've heard so many times on many board meetings that, it would be good if those points expire, if those liabilities
Yeah.
expire, but that in essence is against the whole loyalty strategy.
Yeah.
Like we need to make sure that those people feel that they got rewarded. So that's the priority. But if they feel it, like that makes it more probable that they will be coming back. But that's not everything because like we're coming back again to that use of data because like basically understanding how those people behave in all of those channels, that also allows you to very easily predict who might be leaving you forever. And
Yeah.
and that's something that you can try to avoid. I remember the campaign that we've been doing for Heathrow Airport with their rewards program. So that's something that we've focused on significantly. Obviously, it's a very specific type of
Yeah.
loyalty program members, but we've seen a certain type of activity or certain sequence of activities that gave us a big probability that those people are never going to come back to
Yeah.
us. And we've been designing the campaigns to actually reactivate those people. And what we've been able to achieve was to reactivate around 20% of that base, which isn't bad because it's like,
Otherwise, they'd be gone, yes?
they would be gone. And then the acquisition is so costly. So
right.
focusing on keeping those people active and let's say alive for the program, it's super important and it's doable. Understanding those paths.
Right. Okay. All right. So it makes total sense. But, we mentioned data here and there, but looking at the next field in the worksheet, I'm actually kind of surprised because I've never seen this value in an ROI worksheet. So the value of loyalty data. So this can look a little bit intimidating because how do you put a monetary value on that? But what would you suggest here? Why is it even here in the first place, maybe?
Sure. I've never seen it either. And that's why I just put it here because I believe that it has to be a part of that type of calculation. If we're saying, okay, we're building a business case for investing in the loyalty program, where we know that ultimately that loyalty program is going to reveal the information about how people behave. And this is the data, this is the information that is going to be very useful for the whole organization. So how do we price it out? We need to be smart here. And we need to think about the use cases where other departments can make a great use out of that data. Because there are so many examples. If we're looking at Walmart, they are saying, they have a huge growth in that retail media network. So they are selling their own advertising space.
Yeah.
They are growing 40% year by year, just getting money from producers and advertising. And they are saying they are so effective because of the data from the loyalty program. They are able to efficiently, promote different products to different people. Retailers want to pay for that, or producers want to pay for that. McDonald's is basing the whole pricing strategy, location strategy based on that data as well. So just think about who else in your organization could make a good use of that data. And actually, you could even ask how much they would pay you for getting that detailed information about each and single client, how they are actually behaving across all of the channels, because that's something that is going to be extremely difficult to assess without the loyalty program. So here my suggestion would be to literally ask yourself and other departments that you might know some people with, how much they would pay for each member, for the data about each member. Because what alternatives do they have? Like, those tools for extracting that data could be extremely costly. And we all need that data, especially today in the era of AI, where every single company becomes a technology company, and that competition is really getting to that field. That value of data is extremely important, and we should include that here, because then, if you're going to be explaining how it's going to help the whole organization, fueling that or bringing that information to the table is one of the biggest advantages.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's definitely a new one. And I guess that, putting some kind of, an estimated value on how much it would cost to, get this information via any other means, whether it's, maybe purchasing from some, third parties, right? Whether it's just introducing maybe some quizzes, anything like that that can just push customers to, to give up their, let's say, preferences, willingly. This all costs money. Right? And the loyalty program can be doing all of that, without any, additional costs, right? And as you mentioned, loyalty data is not just for the loyalty manager to just, look at and smile, or be sad about, depending on the context. But this is very valuable data across the whole organization, in the product, in the pricing strategy, in the revenue, anything actually, right? And about, I think, loyalty data and things like that, I guess it's also worth mentioning the basket analysis side of things, right, that you can do. I'm not sure if you ever had any kind of experience with that, because some of our customers are playing around with that a little bit. But maybe you have some tips on how to approach it and how it all plays together with loyalty.
Yeah, so for the basket analysis, that's one of the most powerful mechanics that you can use. And I remember one of the examples where we've been working with a huge retailer in US. It's around 70 million of members. With the basket analysis, they have been able to grow their average order value from around $100 to 120. So it's a huge increase. While it was only possible because they started to capturing that data on that individual level. Because normally, as a retailer, you're having an aggregated data. You know how much you sold, you know some numbers, but you don't know exactly how people behave, who's buying what. So the loyalty program allowed them to achieve this kind of growth. So imagine how much money is that with this size of business. It's really significant. So if you compare those costs of running a loyalty program to those significant growth, it's nothing to compare.
Right, about costs, because we've been talking about very nice things, butterflies, sunshine, and rainbows, so far. But I believe that this is the point that a lot of people may struggle with it, because estimating the costs, it's a difficult little thing. So looking again at the worksheet that we have, I can see that we have some general let's say categories for the main costs that we need to consider. So the first one would be operations and HR. So what is that? How would we estimate it, and what's under this umbrella, let's say?
Sure. I have a good news and a bad news for you here. Okay, so the good one is that here we're not guessing. Here you can be very precise, because all of those costs, I'm going to tell you where should you take it from. The bad thing is that it requires way more work, because it's not guessing.
I prefer guessing sometimes.
It's not something that you're gonna take out of the blue, you really need to put the work to collect those costs. But that's doable, and that's something you should probably do if you're thinking seriously about the loyalty program. But let's go one by one around those cost elements. So the first one is the actual HR operations. So here you need to estimate how big team do you need to run the loyalty, and that's going to mainly depend on your ambitions around that loyalty program. If you're starting, probably 1-2 people should be completely enough to run. And believe me, I've seen a huge of large organizations where those loyalty programs are operated by a team of 1 or the team of 2.
One but mighty.
One but mighty.
Okay.
Yes. So that's nothing more than just estimating how many people do we need, and how much they cost, because that's going to depend on the market, the country. So I didn't want to put any specific numbers here. You just need to decide or put it.
So just here. Essentially salaries, right?
Exactly.
But for example, when it comes to some let's say physical deployments of loyalty, would some kind of like staff training, things like that, also come here under this umbrella?
That's something that you should already put in something that we call the that I've put here as a one-time setup of the loyalty program.
Right.
So here should be you should include all the costs that are related to starting the loyalty program. It's usually connected to implementation of the technology around it as well. That's our kind of like experience. So that's why I put it in that line. But as you've mentioned, that should include all the costs around also bringing knowledge to the team, training the staff, and so on and so on. So that's something that you should get out of the providers that are going to help you with. And here we have like mainly 2 categories of cost or the companies that could help you with that. So there are strategy consulting companies that could help you to actually come up with the idea and with the training of the staff. And you have the software vendors that could help you with the implementation of the technology that is needed here.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Talking about, the system, right? Because again, you can have, multiple paths here. Yeah. You can just build it in-house. You can just outsource it. Or there are plenty of, SaaS vendors like Voucherify, for example, that can, that offer all of the tools that you need, to succeed with your loyalty program. But how would I go about, estimating the cost? Is it something that I need to just, go one by one with each vendor, or are there any ballpark, let's say, figures that I can place here? How would I go about, estimating these costs specifically?
The best idea would be to actually go and ask. So just build a list of, requirements. What do you want to do? Believe me, those guys are quick, like you.
We are.
It's like it's a business for them. They just really go and ask them, and they are gonna tell you exactly how much to put here. I wouldn't push suggest any numbers here, because it could be really, really wide range, and that's gonna depend mainly on your ambitions around what do you want to do within that loyalty program, but also the complexity of your business, the repetitiveness of your business, and so on and so on. But that's something that you can collect probably within a week, on that type of a ballpark level. My recommendation, obviously, right now is to go to those API first, composable type of solutions, because they are going to give you the highest flexibility and also the most, let's say, accurate cost to value perspective.
Right. Okay. All right. Lovely. So here I think it would be also wise to, to just chat with your development team, right? To people who are on the side of technology, if you're not, as let's say loyalty manager or marketing manager, and also estimating, how much it would actually cost you to build something like that from scratch, because usually these numbers are much higher than, for example, a monthly subscription fee with an external vendor.
Yeah, right? my experience here is that building is not the perfect choice unless you have a very, very specific business, or you have something very, very simple to build and start with. So then you can play around with the tools that you already have, adding one or two functions. But if you want to build a proper loyalty, build is never going to be a good investment long term.
Right. There's also this, let's say, new approach with the API first and, composable technologies that you mentioned, that you actually, you buy the technology, but you build something on top of it, right? So it's kind of not like build versus buy, but it's like buy and build, right?
Buy a good tools to build.
Yeah, in a way. All right. Okay. And then we have, I see, support costs. So this would be also like some kind of training fees, or what would be here?
Within the support cost, we need to think about how much it's going to cost us to actually support the member base on the business side. So if we're running a loyalty program, we need to expect that people are going to have some issues. They're going to be calling. They're going to be asking
people have issues.
But this is not something that we should be worried about. That's something that we just need to plan and include, because I've seen so many of those ROI sheets, but they usually have one field where you just need to put all of the cost of loyalty program, which is not that easy to estimate.
Right.
So here, let's just remember, and you probably already have a support for your customers. So it's not that, you need to reinvent the wheel. It's probably you're just going to add them some type of additional activities. So go to your support team, discuss with them what could be expected here, and then how much you're probably going to have to pay to them inside of the organization for, handling those requests from the loyalty program members.
So this would be something like, estimating let's be like a lot more concrete here. So this would be something like estimating, okay, this is how much more support tickets we can expect.
Exactly.
Let's see how many people we have. Can we distribute it evenly? If not, maybe we need to hire, more folks to come in, and then we would adjust, right? In a way. Okay, so this would pretty self-explanatory, but thank you for clarifying this one. And then we arrive at, I think, the main one. Right? So we have rewards and benefits costs. So this is usually where people get a little bit stuck, because it's like, okay, we're building loyalty, but it will cost us, right? Because we need to give something back. So how would I estimate it here? Are there any figures, any estimations that you can share?
Yeah, so basically, again, it all depends on the industry and where do you operate and how much margin you're earning.
Yeah.
But let's assume you're a retailer, and in majority of cases, those numbers that are redistributed in form of rewards to the members are from 0.5% to 5%. Majority of retailers are around 1% and 2%. If you're a luxury retailer, it could be more, it could be 5%, even up to 10%. If you're like super high margin business, probably you can just think about like how much you can give back to grow your business. So it's up to you. But a good assumption is to just take a number from 1, 2, 3% and see what would be the cost, like if you are able to give that much to the clients. Another alternative scenario could be that ultimately what we are trying to do with the loyalty is to make sure that we can earn more money with the clients that we have. So we don't need to necessarily acquire so many clients from the outside. So the alternative method could be not that we are sharing some type of margin with them, we're rather taking some of the acquisition budget and giving it back in form of rewards.
Right.
So that could be an alternative method. And then, you can, again, play around here. Depending on your business model, you can just check what's the acquisition budget and like what would happen if you just took like 20 or 30% of that. How much money, how much budget would it give to you to operate a loyalty program? Is that enough?
Right. That sounds reasonable, because you actually have concrete numbers to play around with. And usually I feel like clients also that we've had, they felt a little bit stuck on this point. All right. And I guess it would also depend on the, what kind of program you want to run, whether it's more experiential, where you want to offer like experiences, status, things like that, or is it just, for example, like in grocery, it's mostly like, okay, you get, discounts back, yeah, and vouchers back. This would also, I think, impact it a lot. All right, and then we end with, our lovely marketing and comms, right? So, any tips here, or is it pretty self-explanatory
It's
for you?
pretty self-explanatory. How to calculate that? You probably should just go to your marketing team or agency and estimate, or let them estimate how much do we want to spend on the promotion of that loyalty program, and that obviously is going to depend on how much you want to spend on that, because it's that decision. If you don't want to do that and you want to do something very quickly, I've just put 15% of the reward cost, because that's my experience that we've noticed across multiple loyalty programs, that if you don't have like any other idea, that could be a way to go. So 15 to 20% of the reward cost could be something that you should reinvest in the marketing if you want the program to operate well.
Lovely.
If it comes to communication costs, again, that's going to be your decision, because like the real cost is in text messages. Emails are super cheap. Push messages are almost free. If you have your member base that communicates through text messages, you need to send it out. You need to include that, because that's a potentially high cost. If you don't, your customer base is digital, is mobile, then you might just kind of like remove
it's
those
just
costs.
some extra labor, let's say, or maybe if you're using some customer engagement platforms, communication platforms, that would be a little bit higher, let's say, subscription costs.
Exactly.
In a way. All right, okay, so I think that we arrived at this, loyalty program cost aggregate, right? So we have it now here, and then I guess it's quite easy to estimate the ROI actually, right, from all of that, which the worksheet also provides. Okay, so we have it.
So basically,
what's next?
what
comes next?
So having finishing all of that and then inputting all of that data, that's where your role ends, and you have your numbers. It's calculating not only how your business is going to grow, but actually how much of the growth is attributed to the loyalty program. So those are the numbers that you can take and go to your board and really show as a potential impact of that loyalty program versus the cost that you will have to invest. Add on top of that value of data that you're bringing to the whole organization, and you have like a very solid numbers to prove that you're not just hoping that it's going to help, but you have a clear plan for how to get there and how to bring that money to the organization.
All right, lovely. So so I have my numbers. I go to the boss, to the CEO, management, whoever it is. I can show this to them, discuss, and then I would say that the search starts, right? So you would search for some kind of loyalty tag or some kind of maybe agency that will help you, kind of come up with the idea how the program should look like. And then when it comes to the, let's say, rollout phase of the program, do you recommend any kind of specific approach? Would this be like a gradual approach? Would this be like, let's just go all in? What's your experience with, loyalty rollouts in general?
Yeah, so obviously the best approach here is to plan some piloting before you roll out. Definitely, out of my experience, what I would suggest is to make sure that you're not only focusing on that business side of your loyalty program, but make sure that you also understand that tech side of that loyalty program. And that's why we've been talking so much about the data, because that's real gold that you have from that loyalty program. So make sure that you understand where this data is coming from and that you have all of those connections. Because from what we notice, that's usually the biggest issue of the loyalty program implementations, that they are very well taught from the business side. We know, what do we want to do? What do we want to offer? But very often, those ideas have to be limited throughout the implementation of tech, because we're not able to connect a couple of dots with each other. So that's something that you should make sure that you've made your homework and you have thought about like where this data is going to be flowing from, and that you have enough resources inside of your organization, or you hire enough resources to help you with that. And then when you have all of that sorted out, it's always very good to test your assumptions on a smaller scale. So you should probably test out the program on either friends or family or a small subset of your customers to test the assumptions, because quick tests and quick validation of your assumptions is a key to, not overspend on something that maybe you didn't.
It sounds all good here, but
so definitely. And then if you see that it works on that small scale, you roll out either like gradually or just a full scale.
Okay, so about the technology implementation costs and this side of thing, do you have any tips or recommendations on how to cut down on this necessary but a little sad cost, let's say?
Sure. So what you can do today around that implementation and where you can look for efficiencies is actually that integration side, because the technology itself evolved a lot into SaaS. So you can actually buy a really great loyalty tools that are very fast to be implemented. The problem is that the integrations are still being made like in 90s, like you start a project, you start thinking about like, okay, how do we connect it? You need to write it, you need to test it. And this is something that we decided to change as Omnivy, and we've decided to build the loyalty integration accelerator. So we are actually pre-connecting already a lot of MarTech and loyalty platforms, including Voucherify, obviously, with popular e-commerce, marketing automation, data analytics tools, so that integration could take not 3 months, but 3 days. And this is definitely something where you can save a lot of money and time.
Lovely. Okay. All right. So I think, we went over the whole shenanigans. Yeah. So we have everything. And now looking at my, imaginary watch, I think we're, a little bit past the time already. So thank you very, very much for, for spending time today with me and, and discussing this, very important stuff. Yeah. Especially for loyalty managers and people who would like to get started, but they're not really sure how to do it right. And yes, thank you all for being with us today. If you are watching us, this means that you already signed up to see us, which also means that there's an ROI worksheet waiting for you in your inbox. Yes, so you can just go in, play around with it. And if you struggle, if you have any questions, you can directly reach out to Voucherify or Omnivy for support. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.